You do the
Press the
intro.
button here. Okay. Well, thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to uh, the fourth episode of Hell in a Handbasket. I am Bradley for real,
And I am none your business. And
and
today we are going to talk about some post-election, uh, I guess, commentary and analysis and what we thought of what happened last night.
trauma, post-election trauma that people are experiencing. So, Donald Trump is the 47th as well as the 45th president of the United States. Um, it's nuts. So, couple of I mean, I say that, but both you and I were predicting Trump. I feel
Mhm.
like you were predicting Trump by a greater margin than me. You were I thought it would be
Yeah.
closer. You were like,
Uh,
after the garbage thing, after the assassination attempt, after all those things, you thought he was almost unstoppable.
well, he should have been unstoppable, really, when you think about that. That going back to our conversation last week, the fact that this was close
Hmm.
kind of says a lot of things, right? It says a lot of things about Trump, to be honest with you, because, even though he was just been elected,
Hmm.
um, there's a lot of people yesterday that voted for him, but you know, didn't really like him. Like don't respect Trump as an individual, but they
Hmm.
voted for him because what they saw on the other side was even worse. You know what I mean? So, Trump won, and that, is a poor reflection of what an absolute lemon the Democrats rolled out with Kamala Harris. Um, her
Yeah.
whole campaign it fell flattered in a plate full of piss, and
Never heard
they
that
just
one.
they just could not get on track, and they just were running in circles around themselves with their messaging. So that certainly didn't help them. But when we made our predictions last week,
Hmm.
um, I think from what I recall, we were both very confident. We were fairly confident that Trump would win
Hmm.
because we, like you and I, we follow, social media. We follow X. We follow the telegrams, which has effectively now become the new media. Like, I don't know if you saw post Elon Musk made this morning, but it was basically like one sentence or something. And he just said, "You are the media now." And he's right, you
Oh
know?
yeah? Really? He
Yeah,
said that? That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
I haven't gotten
And
my daily dose of Twitter yet.
oh, Twitter today is it's like Christmas if you're a political junkie, because Twitter today, or X, whatever we're calling it these days, it is
Yeah, right.
aflame with just angry liberals. And it's just watching them melt down in real time is pretty funny, to be honest with you. And I'm
Well, you
not
don't even have to
like,
go to you don't have to go to Twitter to see it. It's everywhere. You can't get away
yeah,
from it.
yeah. So I
And it
think you
started
and
last
I,
night.
yeah, I think you and I, we both predicted a Trump win, and that's certainly what happened. I think, though, that, and maybe we can get into this a little bit more in depth, because after we had left, if you recall, next thing you know, there's all sorts of polls out. Like the Des Moines Register came out with their poll. And I think that was
Mhm.
after we recorded last week. And they came out all of a sudden one day and they said that Trump is losing by 10 points in Iowa. And, there were all these stories that started to come out, and
Deja
then
vu.
right, and then Kamala Harris did the whole Saturday Night Live thing last Saturday. And as soon as I saw that, I just said to myself, the Dems are desperate, because she changed her entire itinerary that day just to fly to New York to do a crappy skit. So, I think that the if you're following non-traditional mainstream media, I think, you woke up today thinking, okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, and that seems to be where the tea leaves were going. If you have a diet consumed entirely of mainstream media, you probably woke up this morning wondering what the hell, because the mainstream
Well, I'm
media has been
thinking.
pumping you, right? Well,
Well,
cat.
I'm thinking. I didn't even realize she did the. I didn't even realize she did this skit with Saturday Night Live. Like, that's how irrelevant new media is. Like, who even knew? For them, it's probably like the nuclear option. And at some point in time, it was like Saturday Night Live was on everywhere in every household,
Yeah, no,
but
it's
not
irrelevant now.
anymore. Yeah,
No, nobody
exactly.
watches it
And
because it's been garbage for a long time.
it
But
has.
I think to your point, it shows how out of touch in a lot of ways. The
The
establishment,
elites are.
yeah, because they're still
I
relying
think it's
on mainstream. They're still relying on, you know, door to door, knocking on doors and canvassing that way. You heard a lot, and hey, I said it myself. So I'm the first to admit that I was wrong. I've been saying for months now that I didn't see where Trump had any sort of ground game whatsoever. And I was right, he didn't. But as it turns out, it didn't really matter because I think, post mortem on this election, both political parties are going to go back and they're going to look at election norms, let's say, and they're going to
it's not
revisit
fair to
all of
say he didn't. It's not fair to say he didn't have a ground game. Just before you get too far off that point, because I think that he did have a ground game. His ground game was the
them. Social media.
The Trump tour bus. Well, he had the social media, but he also showed up in person, and he had massive crowds. And that, I don't know, maybe not all of those people would have been ones that you would have knocked on their door. Maybe if he had an army of door knockers, they would have knocked on more doors. Maybe,
Well,
maybe
the
not.
reality is,
He
I
was
don't
getting
think.
massive.
Yeah, I think the reality is the whole process of canvassing and door knocking is kind of antiquated. And I think that this election might prove that because Trump didn't have a good ground game for that. Like their whole message was, to your point, yeah, Trump was going around doing rallies, and so was Harris. But then Trump was heavy on the social media game, and that's where he relied on Musk quite a bit. And it seemed to work because he's now, the incumbent president. Whereas the Democrats put a lot of focus into a traditional ground game, organizing people, getting them out to knock on doors, get people to vote. So they were still playing that ground game where clearly it wasn't effective because they didn't win.
So that ground game, I'll tell you something. That ground game, I've been involved in that ground game before, and it's effective when you are the person that's trying to get somebody to come out to vote that doesn't know anything about any candidate, that doesn't know anything about this election, that is probably going to sit in. Like those are the people you can influence. You could be like, no, there's important issues on this election, and let me tell
Right.
you why I think that these. But if you were talking about this election, which was going to have historic voter turnout, that is treading water. That is a useless waste of resources. That is more singing to the choir. And I criticize both the Harris and the Trump campaign of having these advertising little things that were a little bit of like, you're not trying to reach out to the other side, but come to think of it, I've kind of switched my position on that because Trump doesn't have to try to reach out to the other side because the other side is like 0.1 of 1% of the population that everybody hates anyway. So by him going hardcore into the populist, leaning hardcore into the populism, he could even take issues that, like the Palestine issue, probably killed RFK's campaign. That was it. A lot of people I know that donated to him got their
Mhm.
money back from him. Things, and he paid it back and stuff. A lot of stuff like that happened. But Trump came out there and he was like, "I'm making a stand on Israel." I think he just his knack for being able to understand the American psyche and how to advertise to these people. What really uh, it- it's like a feeling. It's like a feeling that he's got that I don't think that other people have that. that's probably why he loves to be in front of a crowd for so long. It's like almost in a way honing his craft.
Well, to your point, I was watching the CNN coverage last night. Because as awful as CNN is, I will give props to John King. Nobody does election analysis like that guy. So I'm watching John King work the board, do his thing. And at some point, Chris Wallace, I think it was, said something along the lines of, because they were all saying, oh, well, Trump's got, these states, this, and Chris Wallace just shut them all up and said, this is Trump's America now. Right.
Oh
And what
yeah.
he meant, yeah, and what he meant by that, I think, was, you know what, you guys can talk about what you think voters want. Voters just prove to you what they want. Right. So you can talk about how, the far right
Mm.
are anti
Like
this
it's
or
almost a little bit bitter where he's like, no, the country has chosen a side and
oh,
it
I
was
don't
did
think
not side with us, kind of like
I
that.
don't
That's
I don't think he was bitter. I think the other people on the panel was bitter, and damn, if I knew I was going to talk about this, I would have pulled up the clip. But they were all talking, around each other, and he just shut them up and said, "No, guys, this is Trump's America now. So you guys might not agree with closing the border, but everybody else does. And that's why Trump is in. You might not agree with, whatever policy. Everybody else does, as Trump is in. That was his point.
mhm.
And I thought it was a really pointed point, and it also shut the rest of the panel up. So that was kind of nice to see.
Dude, I mean, I'd love to see that clip because I almost kind of detect a little bit of, well, yeah, in a way, we're kind of saying the same thing. A little bit of a, maybe bitterness is not the right word, but a little bit of like the country has made its decision and it gave us the middle finger. Like right now, us right here in the studio, like they, like we got spat out. So
Well, yes,
I think
and
that,
he was also saying, I think we need to pay attention to Trump's supporters. We can't dismiss them anymore as being lesser than, right? Because you listen to any of these Democrat talking heads, the Maddows of the world and the CNNs and stuff, they've got such disdain for the common man, the common voter.
visceral
Yeah,
disdain.
and that's what Wallace, I think, was saying is you guys need to listen to these people because they're running the country now, and you might not like it, but it's reality. So suck it up. We need to relook at how we are going to cover this from now on because we look
So th-
like fools now. They all
this
look
kind
like
of
idiots.
Yeah, this kind of blends into a little bit of something kind of that I wanted to talk about too, in terms of overall in this election, where this uh, it seems like they can kind of identify that this election was big. Yeah, it wasn't Trump in his post-election, his victory speech or whatever was like, it's the biggest election. This is the biggest political movement of all time. You're like, okay, but it was a big deal. It's probably the biggest deal of our lifetimes, and it was in a way a referendum uh, on those guys and on the Democrats,
Yep.
because who did the Democrats well, have to put up there besides Kamala Harris? Who did they have? They have no strong candidates. Gavin Newsom, that's a joke. Please, please put Gavin Newsom up there. See how well he does. Like,
Well,
go
to
ahead.
your point, I think the bigger thing is too, um, and this goes back to what I was saying about earlier about people waking up this morning and being in total shock. I think if you supported the Democrats and you were on board with this message and you believe this message and you woke up today to see Donald Trump as your president, when heading into this election, as soon as early as yesterday, like all the media, it was so blatant that it was all propaganda. It was so blatant how untrue a lot of the things that they were saying was going on. with respect to the polls and all that stuff, because they were trying to influence people to either vote one way or not vote at all if they were looking to vote for Trump. That was the play in the media in the few days heading up to the election. So if you know, took that hook, line, and sinker, and you woke up this morning with Trump as a president, you have no clue why. What I would say to each and every one of the people listening to this is you need to figure out where you're getting your news from, and you need to go find a different source. And I think a lot of people woke up this morning saying to themselves, I was duped, right? And
You
why
think
wouldn't you?
so? You think
Yeah.
people were blindsided by the Trump victory? I guess I shouldn't
Uh,
be
yes,
surprised
yes, I do.
that people would be, but it can't be at such great numbers because uh
Go on X right now. They are melting down like I've never seen. Oh yeah, there's lots of them out there. You know.
I mean he even won the popular vote, right? So where he's going to, it seems like that.
Yeah.
So
So
so this is like
I
in a way a referendum on the Democratic Party too, because think about this. They don't have okay, um JD Vance is young and people like him, he's popular. Donald Trump goes away after 4 years, JD Vance runs for president. Who do the Democrats have to put
well,
up
they'll
against that? Who do
Newsom
they
is
have
the
that
one.
anybody gives a?
It'll be
That's what
Newsom. That's it. But
Newsom is
I
the okay. Well, that's a joke. This is what I mean. Go ahead, put Gavin Newsom on there, up there.
well,
It,
I don't
same kind of joke.
I don't necessarily see this as being a referendum on the Democrats, though. I think this is a referendum on the whole system, right? So that includes the RNC, it includes the DNC, it includes the mainstream media, it includes all the deep state apparatuses that are running the thing, and it's a referendum on the whole thing. And I think that people are just fed up with all of it, and that's why Trump is going to be president again.
I
Because
think I think if you ask people individually about now, this is of course going to be granted just my kind of anecdotal, um, I guess, evidence. But like if I ask people about issues that they're concerned about, and I live in a more right-leaning state, um, well, a lot of the times they're worried about things like DEI and wokeness, for example, and they would it was almost like being pro-Trump was a badge of being against that. So this is what I mean about a referendum on the Democratic Party, a referendum on their approach to this whole thing. You can't do that, right? And yeah, of course, besides that, there's the whole question of the mechanics of how they carried out the electoral stuff, and that they made more of a emphasis on the ground game, which, like I said, that makes no sense in this kind of election. This is not the election to do that in. Um, but it's also a referendum on like kind of them. What do they have? This was their policies, right? People were sick and tired of them and their BS. This is what I totally be that because uh RFK Jr. even went over to Donald Trump, and I know a lot of people went over to Donald Trump because of RFK Jr. Because it was almost like the normal Democrats seem to be leaving the Democratic Party kind of feel. So
but
they have to do something about that, right? They can't continue to do that. Because think about this: Latin American votes and African American votes are now demographics that the Democrats can't just count on, can't just take for granted. So you have to do something different. Something needs to be structurally addressed. That's
yeah,
what I mean by that. Go
well,
ahead.
and I go back to it has to happen on the Republican side too, right? Because keep in mind, Trump is like he's like an island unto himself, okay? And everybody that he takes with him onto the island, they're an island unto themselves. They are so outside of the Republican machine, right? It's just as well to say it was a third party, run, right?
Mhm.
Because the Republican Party themselves, there's no real difference between them and the Democrats. Like it's all one big deep state.
What
Now,
is they call it the uniparty? Colonel Douglas
yeah,
MacGregor calls it the
yeah, the
uniparty.
Uniparty. So the Republicans are in an enviable position now that the smart ones are going to align to Trump, and Trump will weed out all the traitors in the RNC that stabbed him in the back over the years. The Democrats, you're
We'll
right.
see about that.
that's a full rebuild. Like that's just okay. We got to tear this thing down to the studs and start over because everything that we threw out there didn't work. But
Yeah,
in
they
bigger
pulled
bigger picture
all the
though,
stops. They
but
pulled all the stops.
bigger
But
picture though, what I'm saying is bigger picture. It doesn't matter because like DEI, we want to blame that on the Democrats, but make no mistake, the Republicans were going along with it as well, right? We want to blame them on the
well,
wars. The
yeah,
Republicans were
but
doing that too. Like they are the
yeah,
same party, right? So
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. This election was a rejection of this system. So, you know, everybody's got to wake up and say, okay, what about this system now do we not like? Is it
mm,
DEI? Great, chuck it out. Is it the border? Great, close it. Is like this is where Trump is going to have to now start, um, you know, making those campaign promises reality, right? And if he doesn't do that, he'll be in big trouble quickly.
yeah. So let's see. What did the Democrats did try to pull out all the stops, and let's think about what they tried to make this election about. Like from their perspective, what was their strategy? Number one, they leaned heavily into the abortion issue. The patriarchy is coming for your ovaries. So they had that.
That was it.
That
That was it. It's like it's one of those elections, in my view, where neither campaign really talked about issues, but Trump talked about issues way more than Harris did. At the very least, Trump was talking about the economy. At the very least, he was talking about the border. He wasn't strong on specifics, but he was still saying he was going to do something about it. All Harris's message was, I'm not Trump. That's it. And if you're running a campaign saying that, and you're the only reason you're giving people to vote for you is you're not the other person, never works, right? Never
well,
works.
they had the abortion issue that I think was uh, maybe a little bit of even a wild card because nobody really knew how that would affect the vote and which demographics would be more swayed by that. Of course, obviously, suburban moms, but is that going to be enough? And obviously, it wasn't. But besides that, besides the abortion issue, I think they also tried to make the election about Donald Trump as a felon, the lawfare. Uh,
Well,
do you
personal
the
attacks. That was the whole
twice
thing.
impeached, twice impeached? Well, so you could call that a personal. I think that's a little bit different because if you speak to some people, it does make a difference to say your can you would you put a convicted felon as your president, right? And if you look at the post-election um
Maybe.
craziness that's going on right now, let me see if I can find. Yeah, okay, look, here's a great example. This is a MSNBC, so this would be the perfect outlet to keep an eye on today as we observe the
Oh,
post-election conundrum. So
I
look, check out this story. Trump moves closer to evading criminal consequences. So that was a big thing. They made it, and it's still big. They're not letting it go. They're going to continue to hammer on that point and continue to say, Trump is somehow it affects his legitimacy or the intelligence of his supporters or whatever it is. So that was a point before. It's going to continue to be a point, I think. I don't think it's going to stop.
well, yeah, I think the thing about the personal attacks and stuff, right? Like if you're in a good economy, right? Where you don't really have to worry about your job, you don't have to worry about your expenses and any of that stuff. You can buy into some of these personal character type of arguments against a candidate, right? But when you're like struggling to pay your rent, you don't give a fuck about that. You're just like, how are you going to help me pay my rent? And the only person who was talking to that was Trump, not Harris, because all Harris had in her chamber was, I'm not Trump, Trump bad, Trump evil, Trump insane, Trump this, Trump that, Trump, Trump, Trump.
Trump is a fascist. Trump is
Yeah. And
not just Trump is bad for you. Trump is like a bad morally person.
right. And you hear that and you're like, listen, I'm looking at the price of eggs here. I don't care what Trump is. Help me with the eggs. right? And that's why people tune it out. Like they didn't pick up on any of that stuff because they just didn't care. It's
What is
like
that? Lenin says. There's a Lenin quote, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, where he said, "Every civilization or something is two missed meals away from revolution."
sure.
So
And and the funny thing about the personal attacks was like it's not like this is an unknown commodity. He was president 4 years ago, right? Everybody knows this guy, right? So if you're a voter and you're hearing Harris go off her head with a different message every week, you're like, yeah, 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 I get it. I know Trump. He was our president. Remember, dummies? I know exactly what he's like. Help me with the eggs because that's what I'm focused on, not your bullshit. So I think a lot of people just didn't resonate. The message didn't resonate because like why would it, right? So I think the Democrats, like I said, they got to tear it down to the studs and start fresh because the Democrat Party of the last 15 years, right? Like since Obama came in, let's say,
mhm.
that's finished now. It's done. Like they need to start over. They need to relook at everything. They need to get fresh blood in because everybody, all the leadership is so tainted there now. They need to get fresh blood in, better ideas, and they need to start fresh.
Okay, so what happened to Camp Democrat this time around that completely failed? Let's do the post-mortem analysis. Number one, weak candidate. But to be fair, they don't have a strong candidate. They didn't have
Mm-hmm.
a stronger candidate, but Kamala Harris was. Everybody made fun of her inarticulate and bumbling, often foolish statements, her inability to answer a question, her inability to answer a question in anything approaching anything like a semi-frank manner. It was word salad, right? Constantly just Kamala Harris, what are you going to do about this? And I was born in a small town. It's just like, oh, come on, man.
Well, and
Um,
and that's your
so
reason. That's the only reason. You've got a bad candidate with no
no,
platform.
no,
That's
I
it.
disagree. I think that besides that, the already weak candidate, then one of your important points that I really strongly agree with was the inconsistent messaging. They
Yeah,
couldn't
fair. Yeah.
find a lane and stay on course. It
Mhm.
doesn't almost doesn't matter if they had just stuck with one thing and hammered it and hammered it and hammered it. I think almost anything would have been better than we're juggling three different narratives, and eventually you get to the point where all three of them are competing for each other on the same front page. So
Well, I go back and I think I mentioned this in our last chat. Remember the Kerry election? That thing was entirely based on whether or not he deserved his medals, right? Uh,
yeah,
but the thing about it was they were consistent. They stayed on message, right? To your
yeah,
point, like at least that was an election topic that people were aware of and they knew what the issue was, and you could
you
argue it
hammered it
either way.
home. You hammered it home to enough people, with that my overwhelming narrative of a conspiracy theory that I talked about before, where it's like, you just have to, if you can get everybody to sing the same song, enough people are going to believe it. What's that Bob Marley quote? You can fool you can fool the people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. I'm sure maybe you stole that from somebody, but you can fool the people sometimes. There are idiots out there. There are takers. There's a sliding scale of how much of a gullible person you are. But um, you can't get away with it once the rubber hits the road. So
Right.
they had the inconsistent messaging, and then they had their horrible advertising campaign. I mean, the "I'm a Man" ad is the stuff of legends. It is historically significant for what an epic disaster of an ad that was. You couldn't have made it's almost it was like viral dark marketing. You couldn't have done a better job if you were Donald Trump putting out a negative ad about Kamala Harris. Like
Yeah.
it's almost impossible. That
Well,
ad
yeah.
was
They
go ahead.
they they completely misread the tea leaves on what people were thinking. And I
Yeah.
go back to whoever their leadership is, like whoever the brain trust is in the DNC, they're all like 25 years out of date. So they all got to go because they thought that this messaging would work and they thought that people actually cared about this stuff. Here's the reality. You ask anybody, Democrat, Republican, majority of people, they are
The
so
rent is
fed
too
up with
damn
all
high.
that.
The
Well,
ask anybody, the rent is too damn high.
no, no, I'm not talking about
That's
rent.
the
I mean,
answer.
just, well, you talk to anybody and they're so fed up with wokeness. So absolutely
Oh,
fed up
okay.
with
Sorry.
wokeness, right? Uh, doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, like everybody is so sick and tired of being confused all the time.
Mhm.
So to have this message about I'm a man and stuff, they missed the mark before they even shot the video, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
Yeah.
had they been more attuned to social media, like the Trump campaign is, they'd know that, right? Because anybody who's following social media, like X, like the unmoderated ones, right? You know where wokeness is going down the drain because it's a punchline now, right? And it has been for probably a year now, right? So had they been, following that trend, that ad never would have hit the air. And that's why I go back to whoever is in that little cocoon of brain trust who's coming up with these ideas, they all got to go. They just they have no clue what they're doing at this point.
Mhm.
None. So, I think that, yeah, you're right. That's what it came down for the Dems. They're just out of touch, frankly, with
Yes.
average people. They're
Yeah,
so out of touch.
she was a horrible candidate who ran a horrible campaign, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't even get Humpty Dumpty up on the wall in the first place. So, you know, it didn't matter because she was already a disaster that was already in pieces before they even tried to hoist her up there. And poor
I
woman,
mean,
honestly, at this point
yeah,
in time, I feel a little bit how I felt for Joe Biden when he got reelected. I'm just like, dude, this is elder abuse. This is
yeah,
unfair. What are they doing to this poor man? And I felt a little bit the same way about Kamala Harris. Like, bro, she must be under such insane pressure. She must be constantly just getting like getting breathed down her neck and must be going like freaking paranoid. And no wonder she's like medicating because she probably can't catch a freaking breather. Poor
yeah.
woman. So in
To,
a way,
to,
like,
to be fair, I no, I agree. To be fair, she punched above her weight for sure, and she achieved a better result than anybody would have expected of her. And she was set up.
then
I agree
she
with you.
anybody had a right to. Than she
Yeah,
ever had a right to.
she was set up to fail from the start, right? Like, how do you turn around a campaign in 2 months, right? But she almost did it. So, credit to her for doing that. But at the end of the day, she was a moron, and you can't overcome that. So, I mean, she did as good as she could with what she had,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
just a little
So
too
yeah,
slow.
yeah, and I mean, so I think that this is probably going to be largely spell the end of her political career. And I don't know how fair that is. I feel like, from what I've been given to understand, that when she's discussing the subject matter in which she's competent, like judicial stuff that has to do, with the state of California, that she knows what she is talking about. And when it comes to other stuff, she clearly doesn't. And probably that's a smart thing to do, to change the subject anytime that happens, because you know if you're even a little bit of a smart person, you understand that it makes no sense to look like an idiot for absolutely no reason. So
Yeah.
if you just say I don't know, and just change the subject, or just make complete word salad. And she would do that. She made that complete politician word salad. She aced that class, how to freaking say spin it things in circles and say nothing. And
I'll throw another thing in. I was just thought about it as you were talking. Another thing that killed the Dems was Waltz. Like,
oh,
think
you're
back
right.
now. Well, think back now.
Yeah.
I don't understand why she chose him, but I bet you she's kicking herself
I
for
know
not
why.
choosing Shapiro. Like, if she chose Shapiro, she'd have had Pennsylvania.
They
So I
chose
don't
it was
understand.
because they thought they needed a old white man. That's why.
I guess
They
so.
thought,
But I mean, you could have found a better old white man than that turkey, right? He
dude,
was
I
just
was
a.
watching watching the Young Turks were doing a live stream, and I only caught like the tail end when it
Hold
was
on, time
obvious
out,
that.
time. Stop. I need to
Mhm.
ask.
Uh-huh.
Why do you watch the Young Turks? Why would you do that to yourself?
Well, I was trying to catch the epic reactions.
See, even the internet doesn't agree with you, and froze you because you watched the Young Turks. Okay, continue. I'm sorry. Just don't watch the Young
No,
Turks. Anyway, continue.
I got frozen. No, no, no. I was watching it because I was trying to basically see their reactions. Right? It's like watching Rachel Maddow. I was like, okay, I want to
Okay,
see
okay, fair,
whose reaction can I think
fair.
of that I want to see more.
Phil,
And so
I
unfortunately, I only
will
caught the
admit I
tail end.
watched The View today just to see their reaction. I had to
Yeah,
watch
it's like I
it.
mean, I don't want to use the term hate watching because I don't sound like I hate. It's I don't care. I think that they're very wrong about all most of everything. But it's more like watching for the entertainment value rather than for the analysis because you know. But anyway, so it's
Okay, fair enough. I'll take you at that. Fair
you're
enough.
like I'll allow it. Okay.
No, well,
But yeah,
I watched The View today because I wanted to see Whoopi Goldberg lose
see
her
what I
mind.
mean?
So yeah,
See what I mean?
okay, fair.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so
Yeah,
like I said, I only caught the tail end when they already knew that they were going to lose, and they did an interview with a senator. Oh, was senator or representative? I don't know. It was like only half watching it. It was so long. Watched so many different channels. I was already tuning out. I couldn't stay focused. But this dude was saying that they were asking him. I think the main host, Cenk Uygur, was saying, so is there anything that the Democratic Party did wrong? And he was saying we should have went with a white male. We should not have gone with Kamala Harris. If we had a white male, this would have been completely different. So if that guy reflects the actual legitimate thinking of, I don't know, of some people in the Democratic leadership, then boy, do they have another think coming. Like there's going to be a rude awakening at some point because if like you didn't learn when the rubber already hit the road, it's not gonna magically change. Like it's just gonna hit the road again even harder next time, until
the
you
pro.
learn.
I think the problem was, and I disagree with Buddy Boy, whatever his name is, because yeah, I'm not sure that a white male would have really made a difference. I think that
Of course.
they picked the right candidate, right? There was nothing wrong with Harris as a person, right? She checked so many boxes, right? The problem with her wasn't the fact that she was black or Indian or woman. Those were all great. The problem with Harris was what was here, upstairs in her head, right? As soon as everybody started hearing her, it's kind of like,
Or
well,
the lack thereof.
yeah, she's as empty a head as you'll ever find. That was her problem. The candidate itself, like the package, they couldn't have picked a better one, right? For what
Yeah.
they were looking for, right?
But no, but also if it was that we would not want to vote for not a white man, well, the Tim Walz would have probably swayed some of those votes, but he didn't. He hurt her. Tim Walz you're correct. I think you're 100% correct. Was one of the reasons why the Kamala Harris campaign lost this election. And
Yeah,
I didn't know. I was like, okay, I didn't know that much about JD Vance. I knew he was young, kind of like a conservative senator. But I think in retrospect, JD Vance was the right guy to put up there. Like Donald Trump's pick strengthened Team Trump, the Trump train. But Kamala Harris's pick weighed it down. It just made it worse. So it
yeah.
took away. Like nobody liked Walls. The conservative guys, are you kidding me? You're trying to attract conservative men to vote for your team because you think that they wouldn't vote for a black woman. So you put a guy up there that like these exact kind of people are going to be really upset about when there's discussions about stolen valor, or when he goes out there and says, I'm kind of an idiot sometimes, so this is the guy that you would put up there? Really? That, that
Well,
disastrous pick.
in fairness to him, though, my understanding was like nobody wanted the job, right? So, and why would you, right? Because it's like, hey, I got an extra ticket here on the Titanic. Let's go, right? Like, who would want that, passage on the ship, right? So,
No, I'm sure there would be takers just for the public profile. you accelerate your profile. They wanted to win. It's not like they thought that they would had no chance, you know. They really the polls were showing that she was winning. I remember checking up the polls last time that we had a podcast, I believe. The Kamala Harris was ahead, you know. But
Yeah,
as
but
the night
we
wore
know we
on,
know. Well,
Trump's lead.
this goes back to our media discussion, though, right? Because the pollsters are part of that establishment. So all those votes, they're all rigged, right? Like when you got the
Mhm.
Des Moines Register saying that Harris is up by 10 points, I mean, clearly that was BS. So, but, this polls don't matter anymore, I don't think, because you can't really trust them. The last two elections have proven that. The last three, really. But this one in particular, all the mainstream media, like they were all in the bag for Harris. So I don't know, man. I think I guess we'll see what happens next. You know, I think Trump, he'll get inaugurated. He won by too big a margin for them to contest it. So I
Yeah.
think M's today they're realizing, okay, well, it's time to give up and surrender. We can't fight this anymore. So I think it'll be an orderly transition. And what comes of that, I guess, repercussions of the rest of the world to be determined.
Yeah.
Europe blowing up
They'll
right now.
they'll transition, and then they're going to babysit him. The deep state is going to try to subvert his every move, which is exactly what I think would expect anyway, and exactly what they would have been doing with Kamala Harris anyway, because obviously this was not obviously she was. I mean, I hate to use the term puppet because it's like such a cliched term, but in a lot of ways, she was that marionette that didn't have that many ideas of her own. So obviously, what are you gonna do? You're gonna be what she even said, my greatest strength is being surrounded by smart people. Because what she's saying, my greatest strength is I don't know shit, but the people around me tell me what to do, and they're smart. Trust me. You have to believe me when I say. And so yeah, people could see she was not her own person in a lot of ways, which is why I think she's breathing a sigh of relief. Hopefully, somebody's keeping an eye on her so she doesn't, uh, relax too hard after that you know, long and grueling experience that probably took years off her life.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, and so that's discussing Team Democrat, but I think that Team Republican, what happened there? Number one, a completely opposite to the Democrats. They have Trump, a strong candidate, right? And especially by comparison. And Trump supporters were hardcore. They showed up to vote. He energized his base. He has a personal following. He has a base that's actually passionate about Trump. So that is the complete opposite of what was going on the and Kamala Harris. It's he was such a force of nature that the Republican Party itself couldn't really stand toe to toe with him. You
sure,
know, this
but
is Trump's America now. This is not Republican America now. They're saying, this is populist Trump's America, whatever that is.
sure, but I guess I'd add to that in saying that I kind of suspect the Republicans could have thrown anybody into this election and the Republicans would have won because people are angry and they're scared and they're afraid. And like I keep going back to the price of eggs, right? Um, whether it was Biden or Harris running, they would have had a really tough time winning the election because people have eyes, right? And
And
they're
cameras.
they're sick of being lied to. So when you go on, you read the newspaper or whatever, and you hear all these headlines about how great the economy's doing, yet everywhere you turn around, people are getting laid off. And the price of eggs is whatever it is in your state, but it's a hell of a lot more than you remembered. And the
Mhm.
price of bread is $5 a loaf, and so on and so forth. Like when you're in that situation, that's all you care about. You just care about, like I said, making rent. And I think that you know they would have had a really difficult time getting anybody to vote for them again because the economy is so bad and people are struggling and people don't have any money anymore because inflation's 21% over the last 3 years. So yeah, I mean, Trump, give him credit for winning, but I think the Republicans probably would have won anyway, just because, like I said, it's the machine. People are tired of the machine, and the media is part of that machine. And like you said at the very beginning, this was a referendum on all that, and they're so sick of it all that it really would have been hard for the Republicans to mess this one up, I think. Um, so,
Well, they couldn't put anybody. I feel like who could they put up against Trump in a primary? Trump
oh, I'm saying
has
like, assuming Trump didn't win or whatever, like they could have thrown anybody, a stick figure, a mop in a suit, and it probably would have won the election against this other bunch because, like I said, people vote with their wallets, right? And a lot of people's wallets are empty, straight up. So,
yeah. So
and
um,
they did do, like you said, I think, Trump, for the most part, did a much better job staying on message, I think, this election than previous
well,
ones.
that's kind of one of my points too, is that he had just in general had a much stronger media campaign. It
Hmm.
just everywhere that you looked, it was more humorous. It was more the reach was
Hmm.
more correct towards the targeted audience.
Hmm.
Um, Nothing that they threw at him stuck. Not the comedian making the garbage joke. Not RFK Jr. Being part of his team. People trying to say like, "Oh, look at you really want that to be part of." Nothing that happened. It seemed to like really slowed him down. Besides himself stumbling shortly after the assassination attempt.
Sure. But yeah, the more I think about it, I think the reason this Trump campaign was so much more successful is because he didn't rely on the Republican Party. Right? He
Hmm.
basically wrote them off. He's like, I don't trust any of them. And why would he? Because they're all trying to get rid of him too. Right? So none of the establishment in the RNC are pro Trump whatsoever. Like, you think Mitch McConnell wants Trump to be president? Of course he doesn't. Right?
No.
So I think that one of the things that Trump was successful in doing was recognizing who his enemies were and then saying, you know what? Even though I'm the Republican ticket, I'm going to effectively outsource some of this stuff to Elon, and I'm going to work with RFK on some of this stuff, and that
Yeah.
is helpful too, because I think that Trump had a healthy suspicion of his own party, and he should, because they haven't shown in the past how they've supported him. So I think that that probably helped him too. The fact that you got this slow meandering machine. Because keep in mind what I was saying about the DNC being 25 years out of date. Same goes for
Mhm.
the RNC. They're 25 years out of date too. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was able to successfully remove himself from all that noise. So I think that I think academics are going to be looking at this election, and they're going to be looking at stuff like that too, or
Yeah,
they
it's
should be.
it's good. It's probably important to put a point to make it a point to for outside observers to show that to contrast the difference between the actual machinery of the Republican National Committee, like working to back the candidate in a way where they're fundraising for their candidate and they're uh, campaigning, on behalf of that by comparison with what kind of Trump did this time, where he he in a way him running is a rejection of a lot of that, and he didn't need their support, like you said, and he did it his own way, and it was far more effective. I mean, I'm sure he got funded, you know, massive amounts of money. I have not looked at the campaign financing, but I'm sure Kamala Harris outspent him. I have no doubt. So, uh, yeah, he was much more um, effective in reaching his people, getting his people to come out, and then almost like the reverse of Kamala's argument, where she was basically saying, "I'm not Trump." A lot of people probably voted on, yeah, well, Trump's not you guys, Trump's not you. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to my argument that you could have thrown up any Republican and they would have voted for him or her because my God, the Biden administration brand uh,
mhm,
was so toxic, like the last year or so in particular, that
yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure it really would have mattered, you know.
Yeah, I think also this election in a way was a referendum on certain issues that have become pivotal and almost iconic. Like, for example, the border, the Ukraine war, the issue you hammer on about, which I think comes down to it is really the most important, which is the bread and the butter and the living and the day-to-day family life of stuff, making sure there's an economy that can sustain some kind of level of life. So these are the things, right, that these are like the pivotal issues that are almost viral in a way, where there's also, maybe other issues are also kind of like where like the trans issue, I'm sure, is viral from the other side because you saw a lot of people that were voting on that, on this is bigotry against, LGBTQ stuff.
I
Um,
don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think it was a lot. I think it was a subset of the Democratic Party, and it was a small but very vocal subset. Majority
mhm.
of Democratic people,
Yeah, they always are vocal.
majority of people have completely rejected this woke movement, and we're going to see it go slowly away in the next 10 years or so. That's my prediction. Uh, but,
Yeah,
I
people have
think,
rejected it by and large. It seems like that. It seems like
yeah,
by and large, because think about it, it almost seems like it was a similar campaign to the gay rights issue.
yeah,
It really seems like that, where it's like, yeah, there were a lot more people that were openly and probably actually homophobic before gay marriage, was legalized and all this stuff. But that
yeah.
was a very different issue in a lot of important ways. Just in a couple of key ways, the issue is a little bit different than this trans issue. Because what were the gay people saying when they were looking for just recognition and acceptance and being able to live a normal life with the people that they love? They were saying, just like, leave us alone. Like, it's not like we're trying to go for your kids. We're gay. We're not like freaking child predators. What's
Well,
wrong with you? But
here's,
now people don't believe that. People are like, okay, that's one thing, but these people are definitely coming for my kids. That's just a feeling that they get. It's, and if you have conversations with people, because like, I mean, I have friends that are trans and stuff, and you'll have conversations with them delicately about stuff like this, and you get the sense that these people are also very concerned with things like social justice and people not being, if you say to them, like, for example, what about people going to your child's school and influencing them to be a different gender if that's not what they wanted to be? They would be like, oh, that's horrifying. And
yeah.
you're like, okay, well,
Uh,
you don't see how some people think that that's what you're doing. They'd be like, that's, of course not. We're trying to allow for the maximum expression that there can possibly be.
well, I just want to clarify the woke is, wokeness is not just trans. There's other woke things in there, but
Right.
in
DEI. Let's
general,
call it wokeness slash
DEI,
DEI.
yeah,
All that.
DEI, people are sick to death of being told what to do. They're being told sick of being told what to think.
The new
They're,
morality police.
like, and like I said, people are sick of being confused all the time, right? Because every day it's something new, and everybody's just rejected it outright now because we're so fed up with it. So it's like I think the whole DEI thing, was it a central issue to this campaign? No, right? It was a it was more of an annoyance, right? Like if you've
No,
got
I think it was a tertiary issue in a
well,
way, in a
if
lot of
you've got
people's
a
minds.
if you've got if you got your leg blown off and you're worried about a pimple right above your knee, that's the kind of thing. Like, there are bigger issues, I guess, than the wokeness. But like I said, it's just an annoying thing that just eats away at people every day. And every time it comes up, it just angers you, right? Is it central to your day-to-day life? No, because your central theme is the eggs and the price of those eggs.
Hmm.
That's your big thing. But while you're trying to afford those eggs, you got some fucker telling you that, you're cisgender or whatever. It's like, piss off. I don't have time for this nonsense. So I think that the woke DEI, whatever we're calling it, issue, it probably mobilized some people on the right, but I think it probably detracted a whole lot of people on the left because there's a ton of Democrats who are fed up with it and they just didn't vote. And the numbers are showing that. If you look at Harris, how she compared to Biden, in most places, it's like she's a good solid 2 to 3 points below what Biden did in the same counties. So a lot of people just didn't show up for her. Now, is it because
Hmm.
of the guy? Nah, maybe not. I don't know. But I think it's part of the bigger package. Is my point.
It's part of what deflated the enthusiasm for her voting. So I
Yeah.
think that the wokeness and DEI thing seems to be kind of like one of those. In a way, it's a lightning rod issue, but it's like people really attach themselves to it. So it's like, in a way, I feel like this was a referendum on, as if to say, like, uh, we aren't happy with this direction.
Yeah.
The way that we're going, the way that you guys are taking this and driving the ship, we aren't happy with that. And if you say that Donald Trump is a criminal and he is a threat to you guys, well, we don't like all of this. And it's a feeling that's on multiple levels, where it's like it manifests also in not wanting to be encroached upon in your digital life, and not wanting to have your currency in a devalued and local economy completely ruined. So like, yeah, these issues, the differences of uh what they even could focus on, because some of these issues they probably couldn't focus on because they don't have the right answers. And the issues that they wanted to focus on, there's that wide gulf where people don't give that much, and if they do, it's usually a spiteful attitude of like, either I don't care or either stop shoving this in my face. But meanwhile, there's other um, like one person that I know that did not vote for Kamala, that was strongly considering voting for Kamala, changed her vote over Kamala's stance on fracking. Kamala came out strongly in support of fracking. Fracking is a no-go. She's a single issue voter on fracking. So wrote in somebody, didn't want to vote for either candidate. So a lot of that Democratic enthusiasm, like, you didn't give people a reason to vote for you. What are you going to do? Are you going to give them health care? What are you going to do? Are you going to really address the issues where communities are being poisoned due to
She
unsafe
she had none.
mining?
She had no issues. That's my point. Her whole campaign was "I'm not Trump." That was it. And Trump bad. Orange man bad. That was the campaign. And no, like I said, the guy was president for 4 years. It's not like he's an unknown commodity. So it's kind of like, who are you actually trying to fool here? So it was a lemon campaign from the start. So I guess,
Well,
now that Trump's in, I guess he needs to deliver, for sure. I think he'll be on a very short leash with his own voter base, right? Like, if he said, I'm going to stop the war, clock's ticking, buddy, right?
yeah,
I'll let him get in
he
office
made a
first,
point
but
about it.
yeah, he
He
did.
did make a point to
And
say that.
and voters won't forget it, particularly if any Muslim
Ooh.
voter in Michigan voted for Trump because he said, "I'm going to stop the war in Palestine." He better stop
Mhm.
that war in Palestine. Now,
Yeah,
Ukraine, we know that's done. That would have been done regardless if Trump or Harris won. But, Palestine's something different.
what I will tell my daughter about Trump's 2024 win. Oh, please do tell. Let's see. This is a top story, news and analysis from the day's top story. So this is highlighted. You must read this by Jen Psaki. Oh my God, dude! Ooh, big wig here. We got like big names writing articles here on MSNBC. Adapted excerpt from MSNBC special coverage. So this is what Jen Psaki is going to tell her daughter. I wish I had better news for my daughter this election. I wish I could have called her and told her the first woman president had been elected. I wish that. I won't be able to do that. What I can do, what I can tell my daughter, what I will tell my daughter, oh my God, she does that even when she writes, is that our role as American citizens have never been more important than they are right now. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. She writes the way she speaks, and she speaks like an idiot.
There's a certain charm to it. I feel like
I guess.
she get she gets away with a little bit more just because of that way that she kind of, I don't know, that almost adorable clumsiness with words in a way. So I feel like she gets away, like she doesn't get as grilled as hard as
Hmm.
somebody like Karine Jean-Pierre.
Well, like I said, they're off licking their wounds right now. Everybody on the left in the liberal media, which is fine. But I think, like I
I can tell
said,
her,
Trump better
tell them
deliver. What I'm
this is
looking for
their.
Jen Psaki from is not to have a heart to heart with her daughter. Jen Psaki, hold Trump to account to stop the wars,
Oh my
because
gosh, dude.
that's your job in the media now.
Why would she do that? First of all, she's not concerned with that, but she is concerned
I
with
know,
telling her
but
daughter that there are still lots of forces out there, forces for good in this country, and that they are going to be, and that they are going to be getting to work. Oh my gosh, dude.
okay, great,
Oh,
Jen. So you and your daughter start
they're going to
railing
be
against
getting to
Trump.
work.
Well, start railing against Trump in your little articles about how he said he was going to stop the war in Ukraine. Talk about how he said he was going to stop the war in Palestine. Start there, Jen, and maybe I'll respect you. Otherwise, shut up. Your
Well,
daughter,
I mean,
she's fine. I'm sure. I assume she's a kid.
Harris concedes it's going to be okay. Yeah, yeah, it is, Harris. It'll be so much better now. I feel a sigh of relief for you in a way. So CNN, where Harris's campaign went wrong. Ooh, do tell. Okay, let's see what their post-mortem is. CNN has been a little bit more, like you said, they've been more, um, should I say, objective, or this election cycle, it feels like. It was supposed to be everything short of a free ad, a panel of women not containing their excitement to welcome Kamala Harris, ready to introduce her to the committed daytime audience of exactly the type of woman the vice president's campaign always hoped were going to be critical to her base. It was a moment that encapsulated one of the biggest challenges facing her campaign, which, in the end, proved insurmountable. Oops. What, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden? What, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years? Co-hosts of ABC's The View, Sunny Houston asked Harris, looking to give her a set for her spike over the net. Looking to give her a set for her spike over the net. Jesus Christ, I can't read today.
Just
There's
scroll
nothing that
down.
there's nothing that comes to mind. She said, "What the heck?" This is her response. So she basically says, "What would you have done differently than Joe Biden?" This it doesn't matter what you say. Almost say anything. What? Nothing comes to mind. That was like they even said this was supposed to be a set. I think they meant a setup for her to spike over the net. Is that a typo?
What
Even
would you have
Harris
done
reelection.
differently? Less blowjobs all around. She
Um,
could have said that.
less blow. Probably. AIDS didn't wait until Harris was opera set, trying to clean it up. Told her,
Let's move on from
uh,
this. I can't stomach reading their crap. like, they're just going to go on about how,
I kind of want to know. Late surge of optimism crashes. I kind of want to know what their simmering internal fights and revealing pick in walls. So
what
they
we were
admit,
kind of talking about.
yeah, exactly what we're talking about. Try to make sense of gut punch. Oh yeah, as Democrats reel, I'm definitely gonna have to reel it to read this.
Oh, I mean,
All right.
there's nothing to really make sense of, right? They completely missed the mark on the voter base, and they
Yeah,
lost.
but
Like what?
you
That's
gotta
it.
hear them. You don't want to soak up the Cope Fest.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'm
it,
enjoying it. I got to get
this
on
is one of
Twitter. You're
these
right.
things. This is
Hop
one of
on
these
there.
things where they, they'll, like I said, they're going to go off and lick their wounds for a little week or so, and you'll see a lot of these, what's it all mean types of
Hmm.
things, and it doesn't mean anything. Like I said, the guy's a
Broke
known commodity.
290. He broke 290. Look at that.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, dude.
like I said, Trump needs to start doing what he said he's going to do, or else I think he'll be on a very short leash with both his voter base as well as the opposition, right? So, and
Well, that's his
I'm going to put
power
myself there
base.
too, right? Like he said he's going to stop the wars. I'm anti-war. Stop the damn wars. You know.
That's his power base. Like like that's who he in a way has to answer to. I feel like he has to answer to Sheldon Adelson's wife, whatever her face is, and he owes it to probably to some extent Elon Musk, RFK, you know, people like that. But other than that, that's who he owes it to. Um,
I mean, the map tells you everything, right?
is the people. It owes it to the voters.
Yeah.
Who, that's who put him in there. That's who gave him his mandate. He has a mandate now, and he got it from the people that voted for him and came out and voted in droves in a election with
And that
massive turnout.
and that's what they hate. They hate the fact that he won and won handily, and
Hmm.
they hate the fact that they've been rejected.
They've been
Like,
rejected.
yeah,
This
they're
is
the
Trump's
most
America. That's what that
the,
means to me. This is
the
Trump's America means. We've been rejected.
The Democrat Party is the prettiest girl at a dance who just got turned down for the first time in her life. That's what this is. That's what you're seeing in the left wing media right now,
You think so?
right?
I
Yeah, they
feel like
can't
we've been
believe it.
turning them down. The losing that was Hillary Clinton's loss was the original.
Okay, fair. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right. That was the big one.
Yeah.
Um,
They're
this
just not
one,
that into you. America's not that into you. And then you know what? They tried to put up Kamala Harris, and you know what they told her? They told her America's still not that into you.
this one is you're the prettiest girl at the dance, and you've got weed, and they still don't want to dance with you. So
And oh my gosh. Yeah. So I don't know. They put a lot was writing on Harris, but she was a weak candidate. It was the best that they could come up with. And who else could they have put in there? Nobody else had any legitimacy. They didn't do a like it's almost felt like it might have been on purpose. They didn't do what term I'm looking for? Primary. They didn't primary. They didn't do a primary. Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe you know that Biden won't look so good in the primary, but then the debate was everything but a setup, if not that as well, uh, where he just crashed during the debate. That was it. That was the nail in the coffin. Like after that, the if you remember, it was almost like the night of the long knives. They, they came out for him, you know. They and they like people have called it an internal coup, you know.
yeah.
And I don't think that's totally wrong
Well, and
to
yet
say.
that was another silly message that this map. You know what this map shows? This
Mm.
map shows that number one, the Democrats think that Americans are stupid. And this map shows that they're not because they saw through all their BS, they saw through all their lies, and they voted for the candidate wwho made more common sense to them. That's
That
what
right
this map is
there,
showing.
that's the percentage of deplorables in the voter base that voted this time. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is Trump's
So
America.
Yeah,
Those are
and
the deplorables. You better start sucking up to the deplorables. Oh boy.
but I think they're going to have a hard time doing that because they hate them so much. Like you're hated so much, you don't even realize how hated you are. That's how hated you
Why?
are because
Why would I be hated?
you're an average Joe living where you live out in the Midwest, out in the farm,
Oh,
milking
you mean
cows.
by those people?
Yeah,
Yeah, of course they hate
yeah,
me. Yeah,
yeah. They
because
hate you.
they think that they are America, that this is the land that's made for them.
Mhm.
We're just basically the rabble. It's not even a two-tiered justice system. It's like maybe like three-tiered justice system.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
So I think it'll be very
The
difficult. It'll be
they
difficult for them to
definitely
sit.
hate us. They don't just
Mhm.
hate me. They hate all of us. They hate you. They
Oh
hate
yeah,
your kids.
everybody, every cats, dogs, you name. Well,
See, I was
squirrels.
just
They
thinking
hate
about
your
this.
squirrel. They hate your damn squirrel. That's how
Well,
much
I
they
was thinking
just
about this.
killed the squirrel.
Do you think they really do hate my cat, though? I feel like maybe they part of the reason why they hate me so much is because I have such an excellent cat, and they
Well,
can't have such an excellent cat, and so
to
you just
to be fair,
hate
I
me
hate your
more.
cat. To be fair, I hate your cat. So
Well, I mean,
yeah,
what's not to hate about not having such an excellent cat? I would hate it if I didn't have such an excellent cat as well. So, I
fair
mean,
enough.
I have to give him a pass for that. That's understandable
I
for
got two
anybody.
fat lazy ones. But yeah, I think that that's what it came down to, and I think that
Oh,
it'll be a real cultural shift for the Democrats because they're going to have to start, like I said, they're going to have to start and build out what they are as a party from the ground up, and I think for a lot of them, it's going to be difficult for them to kind of, uh, listen to voters because they've been ignoring voters for so long.
for the
It's going to be
leadership, it'll be hard
yep.
to change, and somewhere, they'll have to be uprooted. Somewhere, something has to give because they have nothing. They have nothing.
Oh, like I said, they need to start fresh. They need to pick new leadership and go with it. So, Barack Obama, thank you for your service. Hillary Clinton, thank you for your service. Bill Clinton, thank you for your service. They all got to go. They're all done. And whoever they pick in their place, I'm not sure. But let's hope it's somebody a bit pragmatic because if they put a retard like AOC in there, God help their party. But if they can get like some pragmatic leadership in there, build a better platform, build
It
a
leads
better
to
reason for
somewhere.
being. Yeah, but
So I would say
that's a
before
long
we,
process though. That's a long process. Like you're looking at years of work.
yeah, and a hard process. And it's a
Yeah.
long and hard process, and we'll see how up to it they are. So I would say in the last leg of the show, let's get to doing our two scoops of crazy because
Alrighty. So
in this post-election season, in this holiday season, um, now is the time to comb through Twitter and collect. I don't know what liberal tears. What is it that these people are dishing out to
I don't
observe the
know.
Cope Fest?
Can you actually play that video? Because I can't for some reason.
Hmm. Oh yeah, right here. Sorry, it's my bad.
We may not
Oh
have
my
rights
gosh.
tomorrow.
I'm scared to go to sleep.
I'm gonna keep my vote for myself
I
next
might
time.
wake up a motherfucking slave.
Oh.
Anyone else having a meltdown? I don't know how to do this. Right now, I'm just not. I can't fucking deal with this shit right now. I am 48 years old and I have never experienced anything like this and never thought I would in this country.
Never.
No, wait. I'm so stressed.
How is she 48?
I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to get through the next couple days.
Like, dude. This is insane. So yeah, this is crazy that people. I mean, so
Oh,
if you
I posted
think,
another couple there too. Play those.
all right, yeah, dude, if you think that maybe if you really bought into that propaganda, that this is the end of like, this is the beginning of fascism in America. If you really bought into that, I could see that kind of a reaction.
Play
I
the other one I just posted there. Oh, not her. Oh, she looks pretty sad. The next one is
I
my
just woke up
favorite.
and saw the results. I swear to God, I'm done with you, self-hating, disgusting, racist bitches. Oh man. See, this is what I mean.
Yeah.
What justifies that? The only
Yeah.
thing
The
is that
next,
if you really think, okay, next
play
one.
the next one. Yeah.
No! 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 Why? Why? Do you really hate me that
Oh my gosh.
You will literally find hundreds of videos on X like this right now. People are losing
Well,
their
I mean,
minds all over the place.
you can take this out of context. This she doesn't say anything about the election. She play that again. Like she just said, like imagine that she just discovered that Brad Pitt broke up with whoever it is. Now play the video.
Yeah, yeah. But this goes
Play it
back
again.
to
No, no,
my.
no. You gotta play. You gotta play it from your side.
Oh, do
Press
it.
the play button again. Yeah.
I'm sorry! No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
Okay. So that could fit anything.
Yeah,
Almost any situation. You could just cut that out, and that's like a viral video right there. I mean, I don't know, man. That's talented right there. That person has a possible potential career, a future, let's say, for in what's it called? In whatever that is. I don't know. Reaction videos. That's what she should do. She should
yeah.
do reaction videos.
But
Give
I think this goes back to my earlier comment about all of these people waking up, people like this, waking up and losing their minds
Yeah,
because
dude,
they were
you're right.
so
If you
brainwashed.
woke up,
So
yeah,
brainwashed.
so that makes the point, that really drives the point home for me now, where it's like, yeah, if you were blindsided by this, if that is your reaction, uh that is a little bit you should it's kind of like fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you, kind of like you didn't what's your news sources? Why did you think this? What made you think this way? Yeah,
Yeah.
something about that process is not working out for you.
Yes,
Like you
exactly.
have to.
And if I was the mainstream media, they better be recognizing that they've got a big problem on their hands, and they better be like, as of this morning, kind of thing, trying to
If they
figure out
didn't
what
already
the
have
briefing
a
is.
crisis, yeah, if they
Yeah,
didn't
they
already
have
have a
one now.
crisis of legitimacy, they have a
Yeah.
crisis of fucking legitimacy now, and
Yes.
it's greater than ever. So,
Well, like I
what
said, when
forces
you
are they
have
going to rally?
Elon Musk posting out, you guys are the media now, like he did that purposely, and everybody's going to resonate with that, and it's going to be seen by everybody. And if you're CNN or MSNBC and stuff, how are you relevant anymore? That's the question they need to ask themselves, and they better answer it pretty
Oh,
quickly,
they're
or they're
working
not
on
going to be in
that
business.
by shoving them into your face. Anytime you're on YouTube, you watch something that gets shoved into your face. It's the next thing in the playlist is some MSNBC BS where you're just
Yeah,
like,
but
all right.
nobody's watching it though, right? Like, kids aren't. My
Yeah, but they're shoving
my
it in your
kids
face.
have.
They're doing everything they can.
What's funny? I was thinking about this. My
Advertisements
kids.
work.
I was
Go
thinking
ahead.
about this the other day. My kids have no concept of networks and or anything like that. Like if I was to say, yeah, it's on MSNBC or on ABC, they'd look at me like, what? What are you talking about? Right?
You couldn't even
Because
say this. It's on channel whatever.
yeah, like,
They'd be like, "What are you talking about?
and
You
this
got to
is
go
the
to a hotel."
reality, right? And this is the reality that these networks and these media arms need to recognize is they're they're outdated now. Like
increasingly
nobody's.
irrelevant.
Yep.
So
Indeed,
yeah,
sir.
I think that they're working hard on that problem, though. I do not think they are leaving that alone. I think that they are getting all the smartest people that they can to get to work on this. Like one thing that, look, for example, I used to work for a major phone company, and they
AT&T.
were yeah, and they were discussing. How'd you guess? They
I
were
just
discussing.
first one.
God damn it. And they were discussing. I remember like hearing and seeing some of the literature for this about, well, what if we can do this with the internet? Like, we basically turn the internet into cable. As long as you are on your phone or you're getting your internet on a hotspot from us, you have this plan where you have, let's say, 12 gigabytes a month of free whatever internet surfing time. Then you have your sports package, which means you get access to ESPN.com, ESPN YouTube Premium channel, a bunch of sports podcasts, a bunch of other stuff. Or if you into like the news package, well, you're going to get like 200 gigabytes a month of everything from as far left as MSNBC to as far right as Fox News and everything in between that wide ass spectrum. So, and that's going to be, well, yeah, you could go out there and read RT or whatever it is, but that's going to come out of your free 12 gigabytes, of like non-network addressable stuff. So then you could basically get people to pay for a package, get a bunch of stuff on their feed, you shove it in front of their face, and you know that you're into, sports and you're into, I don't know, whatever it is, bowling, fishing, and these news stories interest you, just to give the algorithm a chance to start to kind of learn and see how to kind of feed your stream of consciousness in such a way that it would be even more efficient than you could ever do by creating like your own thing. And the important thing is you're replacing, you know, some independent YouTube media thing, right? Let's say YouTube starts censoring politics even more. Okay, well, Rumble might not be on that platform. You might have to, Rumble might come out of your 12 gigabyte package, and if you go over that, well, you know what, for every gigabyte, that's an extra freaking $20, so you better be careful with that. So
The
there's a lot
thing
of
about it,
things up their sleeve. Go ahead.
yeah, and I get that, but I think it'll all fail because a couple of reasons. Like, you know,
Telegram.
yeah, like X, platforms like X and Telegram, this is all the new media now. And like when Musk is saying everybody's a journalist because everybody's got one of these, right? And everybody's got a phone, everybody can record. And even if they were to shut down the platforms, right? Let's say X got shut down tomorrow, Telegram, another platform will pop up or another website or whatever. Like people are tech savvy enough now, and the tool set is so easy to use and
Mhm.
learn that it's really not hard, right? Whereas, 30, 40 years ago, like you had build out studios and stuff like that, or even 20 years ago you might have to build a website. Now you can do a few clicks and have a website done. So like I guess my point is people will always be faster than
Yeah.
the bureaucracy.
We've
So
we've crossed the Rubicon in a way, and I think you're right. I know, in
yeah,
an important way. I think there's a lot of tools that are still available, but in an important way, we've crossed the Rubicon, and there's no real going all the way back. You can't unwind the clock.
and
You
and
can't unring the bell.
and that's a good thing, right? Because you
Of
look at
course.
X. X is kind of like, it's far from perfect, but at the very least, anything that's posted or whatever, it's being community noted, it's being reviewed by millions of people, right? So as a community, you can kind of figure out what the truth is versus not,
Mhm.
right? Based on the community notes and people's engagement and things like that, right? So it's really hard to post something that's a lie, I guess is my point, right? And
Yeah.
it's becoming harder and harder to do so. That's what the new kind of media is going to be. It's going to be a very interactive media where everybody is engaged. It's not going to be top down, Walter Cronkite telling you what the story is. That's gone now. And they need to recognize that. And I don't think they will. And I think it'll be, by the time they realize it, it'll be too late for them.
Well, they got to do something about the next election, right? Because they are.
I don't think they'll be
legitimately
around, a
screwed.
lot of them. I don't think a lot of them will be around next election. I really don't. It'll all come down to how much their billionaire owners are willing to lose, really, when you think about it, right? So, if it was a going concern, they'd all be bankrupt now, right? CNN's not making any money. They
You
haven't for
hamper
years.
you hamper Trump as much as you can. Bring everything around the rosy for another 4 years. Get as much stuff stuck in as many committees and bureaucratic red tape, uh, mazes as possible. And he's only got 4 years. Yeah, once he's out, and then we go hard at
Yeah,
starboard.
maybe, but what are they going to go hard with, right? Like their whole ideology just got rejected. So they need to
There'll be no
rethink.
choice. It's going to be old school, clumsy ass Republican Party versus old school, clumsy ass Democratic Party with no third party candidate possible, and people voting between the lesser of two evils. That's part of
I
the reason
guess
why Trump is so special, that we both knew that he would win, is because he actually energized people. People actually care about him in a positive way, not in a he's got that following, he's got that charisma, magnetism, whatever it is, that it counted for something. It counted for something big. It counted bigly.
Sure. But he needs to deliver now. Like he said he was going to shut that border. He's got to shut that border. He said he's going to
We'll
end
see.
Ukraine. He needs to. He said he's going to end Palestine. He needs to. So,
I
and
feel like
by
Russians are skeptical. Vladimir Putin did not congratulate Donald Trump, unlike Zelensky. So
well, yeah, but like I said, Ukraine was finished regardless. Like there was no more money, no more weapons going into that dog. So, but Palestine, like I said, Trump, you're going to be held to account by those people in Dearborn, Michigan, who you told you were going to end the war to. So he's got to deliver on his promises now. So I guess we'll see what happens.
all right. Well, I would say that is our episode 4, unless we got anything else to add.
No, I think we're good to go. I think it was a good result for the world, because the way the other party was going with their freedom of speech, crackdown, censorship, all that stuff, this
Yeah.
globalist agenda with the WEF, I think that all of that stuff is as toxic as it comes. So if Trump can either reject it or at the very least delay it for another 4 years, can't be a bad thing. That's my
Well, as
view.
we can see, the election proves that you're not the only one. So everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe. We should probably at some point consider putting up an alternative channel somewhere on, like, I don't know, BitChute or Rumble or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. But until then, do the YouTube things.
I
And
guess we'll get better at it first and then try to figure out how to grow it. But no, I'm having fun just chatting with you, man. It's
there you
kind of
go.
therapeutic every week.
Yeah, exactly. Watching the world go to hell in a handbasket. All right,
There you
everybody.
go.
Goodbye.
Cheers.